What happens when a beloved daytime host faces off against one of the most talked about women in the world, and the conversation goes from friendly to fiery in seconds? In just 31 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into the most shocking talk show moment of the year. Kelly Clarkson sat across from Meghan Markle in the bright studio, the audience buzzing with excitement. The energy in the room was electric. People had been lining up since early morning for a chance to see this interview. This was supposed to be a feel-good interview, a chance for Meghan to talk about her latest projects and connect with Kelly's millions of fans. The production team had spent weeks preparing, making sure every detail was perfect. But from the very first question, something felt off. So Meghan, thank you so much for being here today. I have to say, your fans are so excited to hear from you, Kelly said with her signature warm smile, leaning forward in her chair. She had been looking forward to this conversation, hoping to find common ground with another woman in the spotlight. Meghan shifted in her seat, a tight smile on her face. Her eyes scanned the studio with what looked like judgment. Well, I appreciate that, Kelly. Though I have to say, I'm a bit surprised by the setup here. I was told this would be a more intimate setting. Kelly's producer, standing off camera, felt her stomach drop. This was not how guests typically started interviews. Kelly's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. Oh, well, this is how we do all our interviews. It's part of the show's charm. And our audience loves being part of the conversation. Meghan said, glancing around at the crowd. I suppose some people are used to more, shall we say, basic productions. The audience went quiet. Kelly blinked, processing what she'd just heard. Basic? Well, we like to think of it as authentic and fun. Of course, Meghan said, waving her hand dismissively, her bracelets jangling with the movement. I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that when you've done interviews with, real journalists and serious news programs, the shift to this kind of thing can be a bit jarring. The audience members looked at each other, confused. Had she really just said that? Kelly's makeup artist, watching from backstage, felt her jaw drop. No one talked about their show like that. Kelly's smile was now completely gone. She sat back in her chair, studying her guest with new eyes. This wasn't nerves. This was deliberate. Meghan, I've interviewed presidents, Academy Award winners, and some of the biggest names in entertainment. Oprah has been on this show. Meryl Streep has been on this show. I think we do just fine here. I'm sure you do, Meghan replied, her tone dripping with condescension. She examined her nails as if the conversation was boring her. For what this is. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Several audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not what they had expected when they came to see a fun daytime talk show. Kelly took a deep breath, clearly trying to keep things professional. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair a little tighter. Okay, let's move on. I wanted to ask you about your charitable work. Finally, a real question, Meghan muttered, just loud enough for the microphone to pick up. The sound technician in the booth grimaced, knowing that would be heard clearly on the broadcast. Kelly's jaw tightened. Her southern upbringing had taught her to be polite, but this was pushing every boundary. Excuse me? Nothing. Go ahead with your question. Meghan waved her hand again, as if swatting away Kelly's concern like an annoying fly. No, I heard what you said. If you have an issue with my questions, maybe we should address that now. Kelly's voice was steady, but there was an edge to it now. Her team had never heard her sound quite like this. Meghan laughed, a sharp, humorless sound that echoed through the studio. Kelly, I don't think you understand the kind of pressure I'm under every single day. The scrutiny, the criticism, the constant judgment. I agreed to come on this show because I thought it would be a safe space, but clearly, I was wrong. A safe space? Kelly repeated, her voice rising slightly. She could feel her heart pounding. In all her years of hosting, she had never felt this disrespected. Meghan, I haven't asked you anything difficult. I literally just welcomed you and tried to talk about your charity work. What exactly is the problem here? The problem, Meghan said, leaning forward, her eyes flashing with something that looked like contempt, is that people like you don't understand what people like me go through. The audience collectively held their breath. You could have heard a pin drop in that studio. Kelly's assistant, I'm standing in the wings, felt her hands start to shake. This was going south fast. People like me, Kelly said, her southern accent getting stronger, a sign that her patience was wearing thin. Anyone who knew her well recognized that tone. And what exactly does that mean? You've had it easy, Kelly. You won a talent show, got a record deal, and now you have this little talk show. You've never had to fight for anything. You've never had the world against you. Meghan said it so matter-of-factly, as if she were simply stating an obvious truth that everyone knew. The audience gasped. Several people put their hands over their mouths in shock. This woman had just told Kelly Clarkson, one of the hardest working women in entertainment, that she had it easy. Kelly's face flushed red. Her hands were trembling now, but not from fear. From pure, righteous anger. I've never had to fight? Are you serious right now? I'm just stating facts, Meghan said with a shrug, as casual as if she were discussing the weather. Facts? Kelly stood up from her chair, something she almost never did during interviews. The movement was so sudden that the camera operator had to quickly adjust. Let me tell you some facts, Meghan. I grew up poor. Like, really poor. I worked multiple jobs to support myself. I waited tables. I cleaned houses. I've been torn apart by the media, criticized for my weight, my clothes, my voice, my personal life. I've fought for every single thing I have. So don't you dare sit there in your designer outfit with your privilege and tell me I've had it easy. Meghan rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes on camera. Oh, please. That's not even comparable to what I've dealt with. You have no idea what it's like to be in my position. You're right, I don't, Kelly shot back, her voice getting louder now. The audience had never seen her like this, because I would never treat someone the way you're treating me right now. You came on my show that I built from the ground up, insulted my crew who worked 14-hour days to make this happen, insulted my audience who took time out of their lives to be here, and now you're insulting me. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Meghan's voice went up an octave. She stood up too, facing Kelly across the small table between them. What's wrong with you? You're supposed to be a professional, and here you are, getting emotional and defensive because I pointed out some simple truths. Simple truths? You've done nothing but put me down since you sat in that chair. Before we even started rolling, you complained about the lighting. You made my stylist redo your makeup 3 times. You refused to take a photo with the crew. And you know what? I've tried to be nice. I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. But I'm done. Kelly's voice was shaking now, raw emotion pouring through every word. Oh, you're done? Meghan said mockingly, crossing her arms over her chest. How convenient for you. You know what, Kelly? This is exactly why I don't do these kinds of shows. The hosts are too sensitive, too unable to handle any kind of real conversation. Kelly walked closer to Meghan, her eyes blazing with an intensity that made even the security guards straighten up. Real conversation? You wouldn't know a real conversation if it hit you in the face. All you've done is talk down to everyone in this room. My crew has worked so hard to put this together for you. They came in early, stayed late, made sure everything was perfect, and you've shown them nothing but disrespect. Maybe if they worked harder, there'd be something to respect, Meghan snapped. The words hung in the air like poison. That was the final straw. Kelly turned to her producer off camera, her decision made in an instant. Get her out of here. Now. Meghan's eyes went wide, her mouth falling open. For the first time since the interview started, she looked genuinely surprised. What did you just say? You heard me. You need to leave. This interview is over. Kelly's voice was firm, unwavering. There was no doubt in her tone. You can't kick me off your show, Meghan said, her voice shaking with rage. She looked around as if searching for allies, but found none. Watch me, Kelly said firmly, planting her feet. I have never, in all my years of doing this, in hundreds and hundreds of interviews, asked a guest to leave. But you have crossed every single line. You've been rude, condescending, and downright mean. And I won't tolerate it. Not on my show, not in front of my audience, and not to my team who pour their hearts into this every single day. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound that made everyone wince. She grabbed her purse with shaking hands. You're making a huge mistake, Kelly. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? Yeah, I know exactly who you are, Kelly said, her voice steady and strong despite the adrenaline coursing through her. You're someone who's forgotten how to treat people with basic human decency. And that's really sad. It's honestly one of the saddest things I've ever seen. How dare you, Meghan hissed, her face contorted with anger. I've been through more than you could ever imagine, and this is how you treat me. This is how you treat someone who's been bullied and attacked and persecuted? You're not being bullied, Meghan. You're being held accountable for your behavior. There's a big, big difference. Bullying is what you've been doing to my team. Accountability is what's happening right now. Kelly's words were measured, precise, cutting through the noise. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, looking around at the audience as if expecting support, and as if waiting for someone to come to her defense. But the crowd sat in stunned silence, many of them nodding along with Kelly, some wiping tears from their eyes because they felt so badly for their beloved host. You people are all the same. You pretend to care, but the moment someone speaks their truth, the moment someone dares to be honest, you turn on them like wolves. Your truth? Kelly said incredulously, her hands gesturing in disbelief. Meghan, you came here and insulted everyone in this building. Everyone. From the security guard who held the door for you to the intern who got you coffee. That's not truth. That's just being mean. That's just being cruel for no reason. I'm not mean. I'm honest. And if you can't handle honesty, if you can't handle someone who refuses to play your little games, that's your problem. It's not mine. Meghan's voice was getting shriller now, less controlled. There's a way to be honest without being cruel, Kelly said, her voice dropping lower, more serious. And you clearly haven't learned that yet. Maybe you never will. But you're not going to practice on my people. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside her chair, clutching it like a shield. Fine. I don't need this. I don't need you. And I don't need this ridiculous show. I have better things to do with my time than sit here and be attacked. Then go do them, Kelly said calmly. The door is right there. Oh, I'm going. And when people hear about this, when they hear about how you treated me, they're going to cancel you so fast. Kelly actually laughed at that. Meghan, these people just watched you insult me for 10 minutes straight. If anyone's getting canceled, it's not me. The audience erupted in applause. It started with one person, then another. Then suddenly the entire studio was on its feet, clapping and cheering for Kelly. The sound was deafening. Meghan's face turned bright red, her eyes wide with shock and humiliation. You're all sheep, every single one of you. You don't think for yourselves. That's enough, Kelly said, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Security, please escort her out. Now. 2 security guards appeared from the wings. Meghan looked at them in disbelief. You're actually serious. Dead serious, Kelly said. Goodbye, Meghan. "This isn't over," Meghan said as the guards gently took her arms. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows what happened here today." "Please do," Kelly said. "Tell them exactly what you said to me and my team. I'm sure that'll go over really well." As the guards led Meghan toward the exit, she turned back one more time. "You know what your problem is, Kelly. You're jealous. You're jealous because I've lived a life you could only dream of." Kelly shook her head slowly. "No, Meghan. I'm not jealous of you at all. If anything, I feel sorry for you, because you have everything, and you're still miserable. And that's the saddest thing I've ever seen." Meghan opened her mouth to respond, but Kelly held up her hand. "Save it. Just go." The guards continued walking Meghan toward the exit. As they reached the door, Meghan pulled her arms free and straightened her jacket. "You'll regret this, Kelly Clarkson. Mark my words. The only thing I regret," Kelly called after her, "is wasting my time trying to be nice to someone who clearly doesn't appreciate it." With one final glare, Meghan stormed through the door, leaving a stunned studio audience behind. Kelly stood in the middle of the stage, breathing hard, her hands shaking slightly. Then she turned to the audience and let out a long breath. "Well," she said, running a hand through her hair, "that was something." The audience burst into applause again, louder this time. People were standing, cheering, showing their support for their host. Kelly looked genuinely touched by the response. "Thank you, guys," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry you had to witness that. I really tried to keep it professional, but there's only so much a person can take, you know?" "We love you, Kelly," someone shouted from the audience. Kelly smiled, her eyes getting a bit watery. "I love you guys too. And I love my crew, who work their butts off to make this show great every single day. They don't deserve to be talked to like that. None of us do." More applause. Kelly wiped at her eyes and laughed. "Okay, I'm getting emotional now. But seriously, I want you all to know that I believe in treating people with kindness and respect. Always. And when someone can't do the same, well, they don't get to stay." The audience cheered again. Kelly walked back to her chair and sat down, composing herself. "We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have an amazing musical guest who is an absolute sweetheart. I promise the rest of the show will be much more fun." As the cameras cut to commercial, the audience continued buzzing with excitement. Crew members came over to Kelly, now checking if she was okay. She assured them she was fine, just frustrated and disappointed. "I really tried," she said to her producer. "I gave her so many chances to just be nice." "We know," the producer said. "You handled that perfectly." "I've never kicked anyone off before," Kelly said, shaking her head. "I can't believe I had to do that." "She gave you no choice," another crew member chimed in. "She was awful from the second she walked in." Kelly nodded, taking a sip of water. "Yeah, she really was." What had started as a routine celebrity interview had turned into one of the most dramatic moments in talk show history. Kelly had tried everything to salvage the conversation, to find some common ground, to treat her guest with the respect she deserved. But Meghan had made it impossible. From the very beginning, there had been an air of superiority, a sense that Meghan felt she was above this whole situation. She had looked down on the studio, the format, the audience, and ultimately, the host herself. Every question Kelly asked was met with disdain or condescension. When Kelly tried to connect over shared experiences in the public eye, Meghan dismissed her struggles as insignificant. When Kelly complimented her work, Meghan acted like it was barely worth acknowledging. And when Kelly finally stood up for herself and her team, Meghan played the victim. The audience had seen it all unfold in real time. They watched Kelly try to be gracious, try to be understanding, try to give Meghan every opportunity to turn the interview around, and they watched Meghan throw it all back in her face. The moment when Kelly said, "Get her out of here," had been shocking, but it had also felt necessary. There was only so much disrespect one person could take. especially in their own house, in front of their own audience, with their own team being insulted. Kelly had stood her ground. She had defended herself, her crew, and her show. She had drawn a line and made it clear that no matter who you are, you don't get to treat people badly without consequences. The comment about Kelly having it easy had been particularly galling. Anyone who knew Kelly's story knew how hard she had worked, how many obstacles she had overcome, how many times she had been knocked down and gotten back up. To have someone who had been born into privilege, who had married into royalty, tell her she had it easy was beyond insulting. But Kelly didn't just get angry. She got honest. She laid out the facts of her own struggles, not to compete with Meghan, but to show that everyone has battles, everyone has pain, and that's no excuse for being cruel to others. The irony was that Meghan claimed to be all about kindness and compassion. She had talked in other interviews about the importance of treating people well, about standing up against bullying, about creating a more loving world. But her actions on Kelly's show told a completely different story. She had bullied Kelly, insulted the crew, and looked down on the audience. She had been the very thing she claimed to stand against. And when called out on it, she had tried to flip the script to make herself the victim, to accuse Kelly of being the problem. But the audience wasn't buying it. They had eyes and ears. They had seen exactly what happened. And they knew who the real bully was in that situation. Kelly had given Meghan every chance to apologize, to course correct, to just stop being so hostile. But Meghan had doubled down instead. She had gotten meaner, more defensive, more entitled. She had acted like the rules didn't apply to her, like she could say whatever she wanted without repercussions. And that's when Kelly had to make the call. Keep letting this person disrespect her and everyone around her, or take a stand. She chose to take a stand. The security guards had been professional and gentle, but firm. Meghan had tried one last time to intimidate Kelly with threats of consequences, of cancellation, of public backlash. But Kelly hadn't flinched. She knew the truth would speak for itself. As Meghan had walked out that door, Kelly had gotten the last word. Not out of pettiness, but out of genuine sadness. Because she meant what she said. It was sad to see someone with so much still be so unhappy, so unable to be kind, so trapped in their own victimhood that they couldn't even be decent to people trying to be nice to them. The audience had recognized that. They had seen Kelly's genuine hurt, her real frustration, her authentic desire to have a good interview, and they had seen Meghan's cold dismissiveness, her superiority complex, her complete lack of self-awareness. When Kelly had thanked the audience and her crew, there had been real emotion in her voice. These were her people. This was her show, and she wasn't going to let anyone make them feel small. The break was almost over. Kelly checked her makeup, took a deep breath, and prepared to move on with the show. She was a professional. One bad guest wasn't going to ruin the whole episode, but as she waited for the cameras to roll again, she couldn't help but replay the confrontation in her mind. The moment when Meghan had called the show basic. The eye roll when Kelly tried to redirect. The accusation that Kelly had it easy. The final insult to the audience. It all added up to one of the most disrespectful displays Kelly had ever witnessed. And she had hosted hundreds of interviews. She had dealt with difficult guests before, people who were having bad days or were nervous or didn't quite click with her energy. But this was different. This was someone who came in with an agenda to be superior, to make everyone else feel beneath her, to remind the world that she was special, and they were not. And when that didn't work, when Kelly refused to play along, Meghan had lashed out. The cameras came back on. Kelly plastered on her smile, welcomed everyone back, and introduced her next guest with genuine enthusiasm. The show went on, but that moment, that confrontation, that shocking exit would be talked about for years to come. Kelly Clarkson had done something that needed to be done. She had stood up to someone who thought they were untouchable. She had shown that kindness has limits, that respect goes both ways, that no amount of fame or status gives you the right to be cruel, and the audience had loved her for it.